How's it going? And welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Now in today's video, I'm going to be covering a topic that I get asked about all the time: money. How much money can you make? How can I make more money? Is this trade a profitable trade to be in, right? Can you make a good living in this trade? So I decided that today's video is going to be just about that. Now I want to start off with giving you guys my experience to give you a little bit of context of what I've been through and where it's kind of gotten me today. So I started in this industry 20 years ago now, and started out working as a residential helper, doing replacements, and just worked my way up over the years to eventually where I am owning my own company now, 20 years down the road. So, well, I should say 10 years ago I started my company, but it's 20 years now that I've been in the industry, and I've seen all types of stuff. I've worked in all different types of applications with different people, different bosses, different companies. So I've seen a lot and I've learned a lot. And that's basically what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be telling you basically what I've experienced and what I think would help you out in this trade. So starting with, let's call it a tip. Tip number one is going to be finding value no matter where you are, right? So you want to create as much value as you possibly can, whether if you're working for yourself, so you want to find value for the customers, or if you're working for someone else, you want to make sure you are providing as much value as you possibly can, because value turns into dollar signs. All right, so now that raises the question, how do we build value? Now, for me, it's very relative depending on what it is that you do day to day in your workflow. But I feel like there are some core characteristics that you could be working on that can provide more value to your customer or to your employer. So number one is going to be reliability. You need to be reliable in your job, in what you say you're going to do, when you're going to be there, just showing up to your job every day like you're supposed to. Just something that simple goes a very long way. Being trustworthy. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. You're not telling lies, you're not trying to get away with things. Again, these are very basic things, but they're super important no matter what job you're in, to be honest with you. And then, the last thing that I can think of now is honesty, being honest. When you fail, when you do something wrong, when you mess something up, just be honest. Tell people what happened. No matter what you think is going to happen, what you think the outcome is going to be, what the consequences are, always tell the truth. And I find that people value that more than anything, because we're all human beings. We're going to fail. We're going to mess things up, right? So if you can come clean and you can own up to that and just say, hey, I screwed up. This is how I screwed up. And this is what happened, but this is what I've learned. That means so much. And to me, that's creating value. All right, so we got a bad blower motor. That thing, as you can see, probably had some water damage to it. There was an electrical burning smell, and the motor was just not turning on. So I'm gonna go ahead and go get a new motor and get that swapped out. So the next thing I was thinking about when it comes to creating value is just generally being a hard worker, right? Willing to put in the time, the hours, whatever it takes to get the job done. helping others out, you know, just kind of giving it 110% all the time. You know, being that kind of go-to guy or gal is super helpful. I mean, think about it. If you were needing some help from somebody and they were just like, boom, boom, like, yeah, what can I do? What can I do? Yep, I'll be there. Oh, I'll work late, whatever you need. I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I got your back. You know, if you had that kind of like mentality and that perspective on work, instead of trying to get away with every little thing and not work and be lazy, like, you're not going to get very far and you're not going to provide very much value. But if you got that attitude where, you know what, I'm here to work, I'm going to do whatever it takes, kind of attitude, man, that's going to go a long way. Your bosses are going to love you. The people that you work with are going to love you. Just the whole environment is going to be so much better if you have that kind of attitude. So basically, show up to work every day and have the drive to want to just get shit done. Alright, so that went well. Got the blower motor swapped out, started up, and everything checked out well. So they are good to go. So the next thing I want to cover is the understanding that there is a difference between knowledge and experience. So I hear a lot that, oh, I just don't have the experience, which would be a time, right? A length of time. I don't have the experience to do X, Y, or Z or make this kind of money. And that never sat well with me. I never fully understood that. To me, it was more about, you get paid by what you know, your knowledge base, not how long you've been in the trade or how long you've been doing something. Because when I first started out, I didn't have hardly any time under my belt, but I was so driven that I was teaching myself, I was reading books, I was working with people that knew a lot, trying to build my knowledge base as quickly as I possibly could, reading manuals, taking manuals home, understanding how to install things properly. So I was bypassing a lot of people that were in the field for years and years, doing the same stuff. And because I had that drive to want to learn more, I ended up making more money than them, because at the end of the day, my knowledge and my skill set was more valuable to the client or to the customer, to the owner of the company, your boss, than time with them. So the experience does not matter in a sense where you need to have it in order to obtain a certain amount of knowledge. The speed in which you obtain knowledge is completely up to you. You could work your butt off every day, go home, and you could spend 2 to 3 hours every single day if you wanted to, right? Because the resources are there. You have YouTube videos like this. You've got tons of, podcasts and books and literature. I mean, the resources are plentiful these days. We're actually very spoiled when it comes to self-teaching. So that's basically what I'm referring to, is teach yourself as much as you possibly can. That's going to make you more valuable, and you are going to be able to make more money. Whether they just offer you more money because you're doing more work and you're doing bigger jobs or whatever the case is, or you know your value and you're able to go after that dollar. You're able to go to the boss and say, hey, this is what I know now. This is what I've been doing for you already. This is where I need to be. And you can start talking about money and raises because you have that leverage, right? And I want to dive into a little bit of why you need to be paid by your performance, not by time. And then secondly, when you do want to raise, you don't want to raise just because you think you should get one. You should prove and say, I've already been doing X, Y, and Z, and this is why I deserve a raise, or this is why I deserve this amount of money. So a couple things to keep in mind there. It's about doing the work first, showing that you can do it, proving that you can do it. So that way when you walk into that office, the decision should be already made. It should be pretty self-explanatory if your boss didn't already come to you. So I've always been a big believer that you should be doing such a good job that your boss should come to you and say, damn, you have been kicking butt, here's a raise. Because you should be doing such good things that they notice you and you don't just blend in with everybody else. That's the way I have always done things since I started out. Tons of drive, tons of motivation, tons of drive to get to the next level, to learn more, to be able to do this, to be able to do that. Like, I just never settled. And that's what I want you to do as well, is to never settle and constantly push that limit that you think you have, that limitation that you think is right there. Doesn't actually exist. That's a limitation that you've created. So if you create it, you can get rid of it. So at the end of the day, you need to understand that knowledge is more important than experience. And that way you can start diving into learning a whole lot more, having that drive to push those limitations, and you'll be able to get that raise that you wanted. All right, so as you can see from the service call today, I've got a new small bag. This is a little service bag. So I usually rock this bigger bag here that kind of carries everything that I need, but sometimes I want to be able to go on a quick little service call, do an inspection or something, and not have to carry the full bag. So I decided to pick up a smaller bag here and just put the bare minimum of what I think I need in there. Obviously, I'm probably going to be adjusting as I go along, but so far, running that no heat call today, this thing was perfect. So, and one thing I get questioned about too is what type of meter should I go with? So what I wanted to explain to you is, since I got this new bag, I've got the 480 in here. It's just because I wanted everything to be fairly small inside this bag. So I had my eye on the 680, the SC 680, and which is a much bigger, taller meter. But I've always had my eye on this because this thing's really good for like ductless mini splits, the diodes. This does most of the stuff too, but what's really neat about this one is the rotatable head on there, right? The clamp can rotate depending on what orientation that you're in, if you want to have this visible while you're working. But either one of these, the 680 and the 480, both are wireless, have connectivity, so they hook up to the JobLink app And I mean, you could have this inside of an air handler with the door shut, and using your phone or tablet, you can see what the amp draw is, which is pretty cool. So a lot of that stuff comes in handy. What I really like about this, and what I'm wanting to get into, is these meters can show you wattage. So basically, it can tell you the power that the motor or the system is consuming. So, and what you can do with that information is, you can plug that in and you could figure out what the actual SEER rating is on any piece of equipment out in the field, which is pretty nice. So if you're working on something that's older, and you could say to the customer, hey, this thing is old and this is how it's actually performing. So, and we can compare that to something that's newer. To me, that's really good information to be able to have at your fingertips. Never been able to have that before. So being able to measure wattage and having the power factor and all of that within the app, you can definitely figure out what the actual machine is consuming as far as energy goes. So I really like that. That's a really nice feature. So, and what's cool about this one, it does have dual temperature inputs. So it has these little K-type plug-in that you use for like a pipe clamp, or just a normal sensor that you would read for outdoor ambient or something like that. So what that means, because this hooks up to the JobLink app, you can have two sensors plugged into there. Let's say you're checking, I don't know, outdoor temperature or subcooling. You can't do subcooling because there's no actual pressures. But if you didn't have the wireless probes, the pipe clamps, you'd be able to utilize this with the wired sensors to be able to get that information. So that's pretty cool. Being able to integrate all of these tools into one app and have different ways of doing it. I mean, dude, we are just in a time frame where the tools, they're becoming extremely amazing, and they make our jobs way better, way more efficient, and just makes us better and more precise with our measurements and our troubleshooting and all of that. So, the days of having to pencil whip everything it's just gone. And to be honest with you, I'm fully on board with all of these JobLink tools. They are super nice to have, So anyway, so yeah, I got the 480 on the smaller bag, and this basically does all the normal stuff that you would need. You got the 1K type thermocouple there, so you can check temperatures, and then has all the typical ones. You can check your microfarads, you can check non-contact voltage. This does have the watts option. You got volts AC, volts DC. You could check hertz, microamps DC, and then you could actually check phasing with just two wires, right? If you wanted to check to make sure the rotation of a motor or a compressor is accurate or proper before you actually turn it on, you can test it with these meters. So the 480 does that, as well as the 680. So especially when you're getting into in commercial applications where you have a scroll compressor, you really don't want to run that thing backwards. So you want to be able to test the phasing on it before you even turn it on. The old school way is to bump the contactor and make sure it's running the right way. So now we have tools that are just in your normal meter like this. Before you'd have to have a separate meter just to do that, or a separate tool. So now it's all built in, just makes your job that much easier. So anyway, both of these meters are super nice. I've always had field piece meters, not always, but for the majority of the time, and then they're good quality, absolutely good quality. You can't go wrong with them. I really like this though, because there's going to be times where you're working on a condenser, or packaging or something where you don't need to have it behind a door, but the way you have to clamp it is you have to turn your head around to be able to see the display. So now you can just turn that whichever way you need to, and you can see everything just fine. All right, so we want to work on providing value. We also want to know the difference between knowledge and experience. So one thing I want you to understand is to be the best version of yourself, you got to put in the work. Well, I really hope you guys got something out of this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, see you guys later.